There's like these like sweat marks on this NES controller that I got here. And admittedly it's not perfect. One thing, the plastic is kind of yellowed. I'm not sure if you can really tell. The D-pad's fine, start and select are fine. B and A are kind of fine, but hey, it's actually a pretty nice controller and I'm glad I was able to score this, because, you know, gotta get another NES controller. Anyways, moving on. How about, handheld games? Yes. Yeah, it's messy. How about that? All this is messy. Anyways, got Operation C for the Game Boy. And, as you may know, this is a Contra game, and a great one at that. Konami really did a great job bringing this over, you know, the Game Boy. Like, it's like, you know, it's Contra on the Game Boy, the way it should be, you know. Plays incredibly well, the music's nice, the graphics are excellent, just everything about this is so really well done. I mean, it's not perfect, you know, it's not even the best Contra game, but it's like, I really enjoyed this, and, you know, it's the only Contra game I own. I would get more, but they're all expensive as fuck. But, you know, I managed to get this for like $15, which is pretty much like $20 to $30 cheaper than what you'll most likely get it on eBay, because, you know, I got this at a pawn shop, and hey, what a great score. And it's also noteworthy for being the last game I ever beat in 2015. Speaking of which, all these games are from 2015, but, you know, hey, let's move on. Here we have Tennis, also on the Game Boy. Why? Because I was in the mood for some tennis, and hey, it's pretty good, you know, that it shares the same name as good old Black Box Tennis for the NES, but, you know, I guess this plays a little better. It doesn't play as perfect as it could be, but hey, the music's great, and there's just a lot of, you know, really likable things about this. Even if, you know, you're not all that into sports games, you know, this is a still pretty good one, I will say. Donkey Kong Country on Game Boy Color, which, as you can see, I have the cartridge and the box for, which is, it's always nice to get games in the box. And, well, you know, I did mention this in my Game Boy Color 17 years later video, that I would hopefully get this before 2015 ends, and I did, and, you know, played it, beat it, loved it, because, goddamn, this is a damn good port of Donkey Kong Country. And I know, you know, it was like some impressive, wow, holy shit, you know, Super Nintendo game, but they did a great job bringing it over to the Game Boy Color. In fact, it has an exclusive level called Necky Nutmare, not in the Super Nintendo version, so how about that? And, you know, it plays really well, too. It plays even smoother than the, like, first Donkey Kong Land game, which, you know, I don't own, but I will eventually, but still, like, a really cool thing to have. I mean, look at the graphics there. That is impressive as fuck for Game Boy Color, and really showed off the capabilities of this system. You know, it's also one of those games that uses the Game Boy printer, an accessory that I doubt I'll ever own, but, you know, still, if I do own it, I'll have some software that interacts with it. And, yeah, you know, still a great little buy. And I got here, Super Columns for Game Gear. I got this because, you know, yeah, Super Columns. I do have columns on Game Gear, and this is pretty similar, but it adds a story mode. And it also adds a really cool gameplay feature. If you've played columns before, you can only turn the pieces vertically. You know, you can only swap the jewels around in a vertical, you know, position. But in this game, if you press both 1 and 2 at the same time, you get to change you get to flip them and, you know, change the jewels horizontally. If you know what I mean, you might have to look up gameplay if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yes, you can basically flip the jewels both vertically and horizontally, which is actually pretty cool, I will say. But there is one fatal flaw that kind of makes this game unplayable, to be honest, in my opinion. It's just, holy shit, why is this a thing, you know? I'm not sure if this is random, or if there's any, like, actual answers to why this happens, but occasionally when you're playing, blocks that you get will just disappear. They'll just flat out disappear from the play field, and then something else will come. Now, I'm pretty sure that's not random, but I'm like, why the fuck is that there? Because that's not like in other puzzle games where you'll get useless blocks, or blocks that'll raise your, you know, like, your thing up or something. No, that's just like, what the fuck is going on? Why is that a thing? I really don't know any explanation behind it, but I guess other than that, the game's fine, but it's like, goddamn, why is that a thing? But oh well, still cool to have, but holy shit, that flaw is just unforgivable to me. Atari 2600 games, Space Invaders, as some, and I do really mean some of you may know, I actually already own this game, but I bought another copy because this copy is in so much better shape than the one I got back in June. It's a label upgrade, you know, and I'll admittedly be doing that with a few of my games if it's cheap enough, because I like having games in good shape, and this is in pretty damn good shape. And I've talked about Space Invaders before, but it's a great game, you know. It's great as it was back in the 70s, it's great as it was in the 90s, and it's still great in the 2010s. Like, this is just a game that won't age. I mean, it won't age, you know, like, yeah, you can only shoot one bullet at a time, and while the shields can sometimes get in the way more than help you, it's still just a fucking enjoyable game. I don't know what much else to say about it. Pele Soccer, not a good game at all, really. One thing interesting about this is that, I'm not sure if this is the case, but this game, well, actually, I know that this game was released twice. It was released under the name Championship Soccer, and then was released again under the name Pele's Soccer. Now, I'm not sure which one came first. I think it's safe to say that Pele's Soccer came later. But, yeah, this is not a good game. For one thing, it doesn't control all that well, because I don't know why you keep kicking the ball every time you go up to it. And I've tried, like, holding the button and moving the joystick around in all these positions. I just don't think there's any way to hold the ball. And I believe this is also only a one-player game, so it's like, you know, ugh. And honestly, you might look at gameplay and be like, oh, that's not so bad for Atari standards, but then you look at stuff like the other two soccer games on the system, which were Real Sports Soccer and International Soccer. They're so much better. They're so much better than this. I mean, granted, yeah, it's a sports game, but it's like, still, what the hell happened? Got a Real Sports Tennis, also on the 2600. You know, part of the Real Sports series. Maybe I'll try and get all of the Real Sports games on the 2600. And, this is actually a great game. This plays really well. You know, graphically, it's nice, and while I hate that opening tune that plays it, or something like that. Why am I trying to mimic it? What the fuck? But anyways, aside from that annoying ass tune that plays in the beginning and some sound effects, this plays incredibly well. It's just, you know, it's that fun, basic, old school tennis game that, you know, a lot of people should try and play. Just so playable and just so likable. It's even better than Tennis on the 2600, you know, Tennis by Activision, I believe. Yeah, Activision did make that, because Activision made a lot of Atari 2600 games. I almost said NES games. Speaking of NES games, here are 3 of them. I'll save this one for last, but how about Karate Champ? Noteworthy for being one of the very few fighting games on the NES. Also noteworthy for being fucking awful. This is like, goddamn, this game does not control well at all. Like, don't be surprised if you'll be playing this, and more often than not, your character will be stuck in the opposite direction. The hit detection is also shitty. The fucking, you know, like, controls, it's like, oh my god, I don't know, this is like just shockingly bad. And to think, this is an early NES release. This came out in 1986. So it's like, you know, Nintendo's trying to sell, you know, convince you to get the NES by letting shit like this on the system. And yes, I know Nintendo themselves didn't make this, but it's like, really? What happened here? Nintendo was re-establishing a new quality in the video game industry, you know, after the video game crash in 1983, but then comes this fucking game, and it's like, and also, it says #1 arcade hit. I don't know if the camera will focus. Okay, it won't focus, but, oh, there it is. See, #1 arcade hit. Honestly, like, so many games say that. So many games say, oh, this is the #1 arcade smash, this and that. It's like, no, it's not, because I highly doubt this game was that much more popular in the arcades compared to like Double Dragon or Pac-Man. Well, assuming Double Dragon came out before this, at least the arcade. I know that, no, at least the arcade version of Double Dragon. How about Commando, another early NES release, but unlike Karate Champ, this is a damn good game. It's also an arcade game, and it was interesting how many systems this was on. It was also on the Atari 2600, believe it or not, the Atari 7800, the Intellivision, you know, stuff like that. It's like, this was on a lot of systems, and here's the NES version. And, hey, it's a good little run and gun game, you know. It is kind of hard. It's definitely hard, you know, because there's lots of enemies swarming around you. But since all the enemies die in one hit, and it's not like Akari Warriors where the game plays like absolute shit. No, this plays pretty damn well. The music is really fucking enjoyable, and you know, this might be my favorite 1986 NES game. Like, holy hell, this is like really, really good, you know. It's hard to call it great, because, you know, admittedly, the stages repeat. Like, there's 4 stages, and they repeat, like, 4 times before the game ends. And I did beat the game, because I did like it a lot. So, you know, hey, there's that. Good game. I recommend it. It's also cheap, too. So, yeah. And then, of course, yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which, look, I have the box for. Unfortunately, the box is sun-faded, so I probably should get another box sometime. But hey, at least the cartridge isn't. But, okay. You know, like, it's safe to say that AVGN, James Rolfe, you know, definitely gave this game its notoriety for the most part. You know, because, like, yeah. And, you know, there's always been arguments and, like, topics about how people say, you know, certain games that James has reviewed isn't as bad as he makes them out to be, or maybe they're not bad games at all. And that might be true in some cases, but honestly, with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and other games like Back to the Future 2 and 3 on the NES, it's like, it's completely justified. Like, this is not a good game at all. Like, even if somebody tried to make this game not seem as bad as it is, which, yes, it's bad, it's not good in the slightest, it's not fun. It's just such a bland design game. The level design is bland as shit. You know, of course, the weapon, it's useless. Again, do I need to mention any more about that? Like, why is it there? I mean, other than to, you know, like, hit the bees, which I've heard talk about the bees, you know, actually being health points and not just the only thing you can kill in the game. Because honestly, you know, lots of people mention tips and, like, various fun facts about this game, you know, on AVGN's review of it, and it's like, god damn, and, you know, like, all these hazards, all these enemies, all this level design, all this gameplay elements, it's just like, it's just not well thought out, it's not fun, it's just bland, it's terrible, and, you know, it really gives, like, a lot of bad games a run for its money. Like, you know, I've talked a lot about, I hate to mention this game again, but I've talked a lot about this, okay? Yeah, this is definitely far worse than this. We can understand why. Well, I can understand why this is, like, awful compared to this, which I still think this game is terrible, but hey, let's stop talking about this game. But, like, just, it's shocking. It really is, and, you know, playing it, you know, is just, like, completely different from just watching AVGN's review or someone else's review. Like, admittedly, I've had a little more frustration with, like, Bubsy in Claws Encounters of the Third Kind, and maybe even Sonic and the Secret Rings, but it's like, just, I can't believe it, that this is on the same system as Super Mario Bros. 3 and all these other classics. I mean, there's lots of bad games on the NES, and to be fair, I honestly think Back to the Future 2 and 3 is far worse than this game, but it's like, do I even need to say much more about it? It's not well thought out. It's not fun. It's, you know, just an incredibly dumb game. Honestly, like, holy shit. I don't know what much else I'm supposed to say about it. Well, I guess I'm gonna end things here. You know, making a damn fool of myself, uploading these goddamn videos.